Last time on the WizardCast.
This is the Salesforce Wizard, and we're live with the WizardCast!
Live? It's a pod. Oh, yeah. And I'm the Salesforce Yoda coming at you from Apple Podcasts and where all great podcasts can be found.
Good enough. Time to raise and shine with the wackiest half hour you'll ever find invading your ear holes. And watch out for that traffic out on the 49. It's murder.
On today's show, we've got Dustin Diamond from Saved by the Bell. Remember that show?
Not at all.
Yeah, me neither. I think he's now that guy who spins the sandwich shop sign down on 52nd Street.
Ouch! Somebody call an ambulance because we got a serious burn victim on our hands. Stephen Lynch is in the studio to serenade us today.
The Lynchmeister, Lyncharino, Lynch in the house.
And we got Dave Coulier of Full House fame.
All right. Cut it out. Experiment over. Brian, this just isn't going to work. I've had enough of this kind of nonsense.
What kind of nonsense would you prefer?
You know, our normal kind.
And now the conclusion of the WizardCast.
I'm Brian Kwong.
And I'm Mark Ross.
We're Salesforce experts that love talking about technology and Salesforce.
We also love humor. Doesn't mean we're actually good at it.
In the Salesforce community, I'm known as the Salesforce Wizard, likely due to me wearing a wizard hat at Salesforce events.
And I'm known as Salesforce Yoda for pretty much the same reason.
You should see the ears.
We have a passion to help educate and entertain people.
So we've joined forces to create WizardCast.
We've got tips and best practices.
We talk with interesting people.
All mixed with quote-unquote jokes and humor.
Welcome to the WizardCast. Mark, did you hear about last week's French cheese manufacturer explosion?
No. That's a really weird thing for me to hear about. What happened?
It was terrible. There was debris everywhere. Cheese? Brie?
I got it. Boy. All right, well, this episode is clearly off the rails very quickly.
Okay, WizardCast fans. I should say we don't actually have any of those guests we talk about at the start of the episode.
No, we do not. And this is not a surprise to any of us.
I did try to get the sandwich sign spinning guy on 52nd Street, but he had a conflict with his professional statue acting class.
Yeah, maybe that was Dustin Diamond.
Yeah, who is Dustin Diamond?
He's Screech from Saved by the Bell. I mean, I sound like I'm disparaging you for not knowing it, but the only reason I know that is because I Googled it, so.
I was always a Zach fan, personally. Anyways.
That says a lot about you.
It's been a while since we've done one of these podcasts, Mark.
Yes, it has. We're back on track.
In theory. So we'll talk to you in another month and a half.
Yep. See you in 6 weeks. Oh, wait, maybe we should finish this episode.
Yeah. You know, it's really sad. If I don't have any banter actually scripted, I don't know what to tell you, Mark. I'm out of banter. I'm de-banterized.
Yeah, that's probably because you're out of practice. Did you consider that? Like maybe we should be getting practice being crazy in other places? This is not going anywhere, is it?
No. I mean, can you imagine us trying to do this at our job?
I actually probably could.
It'd be like, phone rings. Hey, you've reached better partners. Welcome to the consulting zone.
Okay. No, I think I would immediately find somebody else to do business with.
Yeah. So we're having such a difficult time coming up with our banter between the joke and the content. How about we just take a coffee break?
I think it is time for a coffee break. But hang on, we just got started. You always make the loud slurping noises that I have to edit out when you actually drink the coffee in front of the microphone like a total non-professional. Oh, jeez.
No, Mark. Coffee break is where we take something shared by Peter Coffee and talk about it.
Oh, yeah. So Peter recently tweeted this: technology performs a transaction on a device. A company delivers a product to a buyer. A brand creates a continuing experience for its customers, and a brand is not defined by its trademark, but by its customer community. How are you building yours?
And I think that's a great question. Now, for us, our listeners are our customers, and so I guess you can kind of say our customer community is basically Twitter, the Facebook page, the Trailblazer group, or a phone number.
I mean, those are all kind of miniature communities. They don't really interact with each other. They just interact with us through those things.
Yeah, so how would we be building our customer community?
Well, gee, if this weren't a podcast and were instead some kind of a regular webinar, we might do something like actually wait, I don't know how that would work, actually. Maybe we should talk to somebody who would know.
Yeah. You think someone who does, say, every other Friday, some sort of webinar,
But not just any old content. Like, it's got to be something important to us, right?
Yeah. So it's got to be Salesforce related.
Yeah. Maybe, it'd be great if there was one with Flow. It's awfully niche, but
yeah.
I wonder...
Are you interested in Salesforce automation? Looking for tips, tricks, and inspiration? Have you attended an Automation Hour presentation? Well, today we're talking with Jen Lee, co-host and one of the 3 organizers of Automation Hour. Jen is a Salesforce MVP with over 600 Trailhead badges and currently has 3 Salesforce certifications. If you haven't been to an Automation Hour presentation, you may be familiar with her from one of her many event presentations and, of course, her blog. So welcome, Jen Lee, to the WizardCast.
Thank you for having me.
This is like a long time coming, honestly. We should have done this ages ago.
We should have done it the day that she came up and stalked us at Dreamforce.
I know, right? That was how we first met. What were we doing, Brian?
That was the year we were doing that hands-on training for Flow. And so you and we were doing I had 7 different presentations that year. And I swear Jen was at every single one.
I totally loaded my Dreamforce schedule with all the process automation sessions that I could get a hold of.
You drank the Flow Kool-Aid heavy, right out of the starting gate.
Yep, I'm like, bring it.
And now you've got a blog, right?
Yep.
Yep.
What is that blog address?
It is jenwlee.wordpress.com.
With one N. Jen with one N.
Yeah. Links in the show notes.
Links in the show notes. That's right. So we got a blog. You got Automation Hour. You've presented how many times at Salesforce events now?
Too many to talk about.
So today we're going to talk about every single one of them.
So actually, maybe we should start with what is Automation Hour?
Sure. So Automation Hour is a free webinar series. We try and meet every other Friday, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern. And we have either one of us co-hosts present, so that's Rakesh Gupta and David Litton or myself, or we have someone from the community present, like yourselves or anyone really. And they go on and present a business use case and a process automation solution to it. So it covers all sorts of skill sets, beginner, intermediate, advanced, and we have a YouTube channel where we post our previous recordings. So you can get to that at bit.ly/automation hour videos.
Is that lowercase, uppercase?
We'll give it in the notes. But we also have the show notes. And we also have a website, automationhour.com, where you could sign up for upcoming sessions as well as access the previous recordings too.
Very nice. Very nice.
So, is this a Salesforce thing? I mean, is this something that Salesforce puts on?
No. So it's really created by the community for the community. And it's actually Rakesh Gupta's automation champion, as we all know him. It was his idea. He wanted to provide a forum for anyone in the ecosystem who really wanted to share process automation solutions with each other. So he reached out to me, we brought on David, and we launched it in the fall of 2016. And we most recently had our 61st webinar.
Wow.
We've also had the Salesforce process automation product managers on here to present as well. So any upcoming releases, we have Arnab, Shannon Hale came on to present Flow Builder. So that was really cool.
Very nice. And so this is just because, we have different types of people who listen to the show. This is when we're talking process automation, we're talking workflow, process builder, flow.
And we also sometimes throw in a little bit of Apex.
Oh, hey, whatever works.
Yeah, that's true. I'm glad you mentioned that it's a business use case, because that's something I think that is missing from a lot of automation demonstrations is what is the business purpose behind the neat little tip or trick that you're doing? Which means I should really think of one for the presentation I'm doing.
It's one of the things that's really cool about, in my opinion, about Process Builder and Flow is it's something that you can come up with. Like I had this idea for my org, and then it's something you can immediately plop down in front of other people and share and pull it up and look at like the map and how everything interacts with each other. And other people, if they don't have an immediate use case for us, it's still very likely that it will inspire them to think of something that they can find useful.
Sorry, my son is supposed to be taking his nap right now, and obviously it's not working.
We'll cut it out. We'll clip it out.
So I forgot my question now.
So how did this get started?
Rakesh just came up with the idea, and then he just pitched it to me. And I was like, oh, well, that's a cool opportunity to get myself out there in the open. It was before I became MVP. So I'm like, okay, well, I love process automation. I'm all for sharing that. And if I could get out there and get other people to share it, that'd be the icing on the cake.
And you started from this thing that was just like, hey, let's put together a webinar. And obviously you don't have to give exact numbers, but what kind of attendance do you usually have?
It depends on the topic, but typically we'll get at least 50 or so people. But for Shannon Hale's recent one on Flow Builder, I think we had over 150 maybe.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just live. Like you go back and you look at the YouTube videos and you've got at least 100, 200 views on even just very recent videos.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah,
So
a lot of people can't join live, so we recommend that you sign up anyways, right? You're going to get the notification after the session has passed that the recording is out there on YouTube, and then you could access the deck.
So, and that's what I find really cool about this is it's basically, a couple people in the community said, hey, let's do something. And you started it. And now it's kind of blown up to this thing, which has a really regular following and is quite popular amongst people who do this kind of thing. And that's the ecosystem in a nutshell, right?
And we have Salesforce also promoting our sessions as well, which is really cool.
That is really cool. So I would imagine that, the three of you got together and said, hey, let's do this. And you created a Twitter account, posted a link, and that's all you had to do, right? There's really no work involved with setting any of these up.
It runs itself.
People just magically show up and present. You don't have to send reminder emails to anyone.
So we have a Trailblazer community that's also set up called Salesforce Automation Hour, where we publish the links to the upcoming webinars. As you mentioned, we also have a following. So when we're scheduling these new sessions, I will reach out to our past presenters. I'll also go out on Slack and the Trailblazer community, as well as Twitter, and solicit new presenters, right? Because we always want fresh blood in there as well. And we love return presenters, just like yourself, Mark and Brian. You're both coming back. Mark next Friday on March 29th, and then Brian, you're coming back on April 26th. So we really appreciate, our past presenters continuing to support us.
And I really appreciate you telling me what date I'm going to present. I should really put that in my calendar.
Oh, Brian. That's so Brian.
So you mentioned that, people like Mark and I are presenting. You said Shannon Hale, who we all know who Shannon Hale is by this point in this podcast.
Shannon Hale.
Who else can I present, like, if we have a listener out there who is wondering, well, geez, I've done some automation things. How do you decide, this is someone that should be on the automation hour or should not be on the automation hour quite yet?
We don't really discriminate. So if you reach out to us and you just tell us what your process automation solution is in the business case, we'll most likely put you on.
Hey, there you go. So it's an open platform.
No wonder we're both on it.
Well, we of course will do a prep meeting beforehand to see what you're going to actually say.
Okay. So who else? Because I know you've got a big long list. Who else do we have coming up in the next coming weeks?
So in terms of NVPs, we have Nana Gregg, we have Monica Sandberg, Megan Broadkey, and Bonnie Hinner. So they've presented multiple times. And then we have some new presenters or those who are pretty active in the community. So we have Michael Barnes, Randy Thompson, Ashley Allen, Michelle Hansen, just to name a few.
Wow, that's going all the way out to what, October?
All the way out to the end of the year. So we're now completely booked for 2019.
Woo.
So that means, dear listener, you have no excuse to go out there and start registering for the rest of the year for Automation Hour.
Yeah, because they do have to register for individual webinars.
Correct, and you get a reminder when the session is coming up that it's upcoming as well.
Most excellent. So let's say, because I know for a fact there are some admins out there that, the most they've probably ever done is touch workflow. Some, right? There are certain people out there that just have not really dived into Process Builder, much less Flow. Why should they still attend this?
I think, like you said, it's good to attend it just to get ideas from other folks. So even if, like, let's say we have a presentation on the nonprofit side, you might be able to still get something out of that. Like, oh, well, I didn't think about it this way. I could implement something similar in my org. We also have, and we're in the process of putting together descriptions of each session so that folks know what type of skill set it is. So look for that to come, where we'll say this session was really geared more toward beginners. So if you're more beginner, you might want to watch these first before you do the intermediate or advanced topics. We won't typically know in advance, too much in advance, until we actually have that prep session with the presenter.
Well, that's actually an interesting question. How do you define, beginner, intermediate, advanced? Because I know Salesforce has their own special definition for what novice or intermediate is, and it's always a much lower weighted scale than I think the typical person thinks. Like, to Salesforce, intermediate would be, hey, you've heard of the feature, where novices, you've never heard of the feature before. So when someone's looking through either past recordings or something like that, and they say, hey, this is a beginner or intermediate, what is your criteria for defining that tier?
Beforehand, typically we'll have the presenter self-assess what their criteria is. But I guess from our standpoint, a beginner would be, I've heard of these tools, I may have tried using these tools. And then intermediate is probably you've had some significant experience with working with the tools, like for Flow, you might have interaction with multiple objects. And then advanced for Flow, for example, it would be doing the looping and assignments and things like that, like a monster flow.
So I probably should have asked this at the beginning. I'm going to backpedal a little bit. But one of the things we like to ask about, just for people on the show, is what their story is like. Because everybody has their own story as to how, they came into the Salesforce world and how they got to where they are now. So what's your story?
Okay. So I, in 2011, prior prior to 2011, I started as a technology project manager, and one of the projects that I was given was taking a business unit that was crammed into an existing org and basically building out their new org so that they can control their own destiny, right? So we had worked with a SI to create that org. And ultimately, when it went into production, my team became responsible for managing that org. And we didn't have any real Salesforce in-house exposure. So I ended up having to take the admin training and learning the basics myself. And eventually, as I started playing around with things, I really wanted to do Salesforce full time. I didn't really want to, because I had other applications that I was supporting. So I really just wanted to focus on Salesforce and less so on the sales reporting systems and things like that. So I ended up leaving a firm that I worked for 17 years.
Wow.
Yes. It was a very hard decision. But then I took a role at John Hancock, and it was a newly formed team. They had one Salesforce org up and running, but the company has a huge investment in Salesforce, and I saw the growth potential of, dabbing in multiple clouds, multiple orgs. So I ended up taking that role and now is in the governance side of things on my team. So as it relates to process automation, I learned about Process Builder when it first came out, right? And then I learned that there was this thing called Flow. Didn't know too much about Flow, but I said, okay, well, we have so much code in our org, we should start trying to build process automation declaratively if we can, right? In certain circumstances, that makes sense, right? So we should try and do that. But, the first time I opened up Flow, I had no idea how to even configure it. And there really wasn't a lot of documentation out there. So I had resources like Wizard News. I had resources like Automation Champion, right? And then when I went to Dreamforce, that's when I soaked it all up. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to learn all the things about process automation that I can, because I wanted my team to use it, but I couldn't just say, go use it. I had to learn it myself and then teach my team. So then, hence, once I started doing that, I got really passionate about process automation, and, I guess the rest is history.
That's awesome.
This is what I really like about you, Jen, is when I first got to meet you in person, you were probably one of the most, let's say, energetic and enthusiastic people that I met that year. And your passion has really come across over the last few years. I mean, your blog puts me to shame. I mean, it's like, I'll go through and I'm like, I really have this, I should write this blog post. I've had in draft stage for 6 months now. And I look at, and I see, oh, here's Jen's a new blog post and another blog post and another blog post. And I'm just amazed at how much you're keeping up with things. I have no idea how you do it. Between your blog posts and Automation Hour and everything else that you're doing, I would imagine that you are sleeping approximately an hour a night and mainlining caffeine.
I have to say it's hard. Sometimes you hit these spells where it's just like, what new thing am I going to come up with? And sometimes, you're coming up with ideas left and right, and you just have to find time to write the blog post. So it comes in spurts. I really enjoy people who come up to me in conferences and tell me how Automation Hour has changed their lives and how, how informative the content is for them. So I want to say a very thank you for all those people in the ecosystem who have joined one or two or regularly join Automation Hour. It's because of you that we continue to do this. So thank you very much.
I guess we're kind of coming to the end of the interview, but I've got one more question.
Uh-oh.
It's fine. It's fine, Brian. Calm down. It's fine. So for people who are learning Flow, what one piece of advice would you give them as they're going through this journey?
I would definitely recommend Trailhead. Trailhead did not exist way back when I was learning it. And I would say be persistent. I did not get it the first time. I didn't get it the second time or the third time, but I was persistent. Find use cases that make sense to you. Like I, for one, like building. So I liked, Wizard News and Automation Champion, where you list out the steps, and I like building it because it sticks with me if I actually do it versus just reading about it. So I would say be persistent and continue on. You will eventually get it.
Amen. Amen to that. Well, thank you very much, Jen. It's been a pleasure and an honor having you on. And everybody, make sure you go to Automation Hour on every other Friday.
Great. And thank you again for supporting Automation Hour.
WizardCast is produced by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, directed by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, technical administration by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, script writing by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, audio editing by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, website maintenance by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, and our intern this episode was Stuart McNaught.
Ooh, he took a real spill there, but it looks like he righted himself and he's back on track. You could be an intern too. Just follow us at WizardCast_pod on Twitter.
Or if you see this event, take a picture and then tweet us, or somehow remind us that you met us so we can add you to our list.
Have a joke, interview suggestion, or other comments? Let us know. You can call or leave a voice recording, because this is 2019 at 608-492-0321, or email wizardcast@thewizardnews.com.
And we need to hear from you. If you could ask Parker Harris one question, what would it be?
Submit a question by going to bit.ly/ParkerQuestions, all lowercase, and fill out our short form.
I'm going to guess most of the questions people are going to ask is, why is Parker Harris on the WizardCast?
I'm going to assume the question people are going to ask is, why are you allowing these yahoos to continue to do this podcast about your product?
Coming up is our Idea Exchange highlight. And this is where we take ideas from the Idea Exchange and talk about them, to promote them, or just generally discuss about them. If you have an idea you would like us to highlight, tell us. And we really are going to do this very soon. If you have an idea on the Idea Exchange, please send it to us. Submit yours by going to bit.ly/idea highlight, all lowercase, to submit that to us so we can talk about it on the show. And it doesn't have to be your idea. It could be simply one that you voted for, or one that you're wondering, what the heck is this about? Or maybe you think it's a terrible idea and you want to highlight that. I don't know, if you want to be a naysayer. Don't forget to subscribe to the WizardCast and receive our next episode automatically. And please post reviews on Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes, and share this episode. It helps others to hear what you just had to endure. Once again, I'm Brian. And I'm Marcarino, the Mark Meister. Mark in the house. Thanks for listening. Fine. Or you can come up to us during events and tweet us. Oh my God, that was awful. Tweet. Or if you see, I did try to get the sandwich spinning guy out on 52nd Street, but he had a conflict with his.
Say that again. You said sandwich spinning guy.
He could be spinning sandwich.
There's lettuce everywhere.